gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
Most conflict is not born in the mouth. It's born in the wound standing behind the teeth. Two people can sit across from each other at the same table while fighting entirely different ghosts. One defending pride like a castle built from broken childhood promises. The other gripping anger like a flare against the dark terror of being unseen. Arguments are rarely sword fights between facts. They're thunderstorms of memory colliding in human skin. Each person translating pain into language the other cannot read. Watch closely enough and human behavior begins to look less like conversation and more like a survival choreography. The tightened jaw, the folded arms, the laugh sharpened into a blade, the silence stretched so thin it hums like a live electrical wire. Every gesture in the nervous system speaking before the tongue ever moves. People do not merely oppose each other in conflict. They build emotional armor from humiliation, fear, loneliness, and ego. Then mistake the sound of metal scraping metal for truth. And the cruelest part is that most people leave conflict believing they defended themselves, when all they truly defended was the version of themselves they are terrified to lose. Entire relationships collapse not because love disappeared, but because neither side could lower their weapons long enough to recognize the frightened human trembling behind the enemy's eyes. In the end, opposing points of view are often just two injured minds standing in a separate storm, both screaming for understanding while mistaking thunder for the other person's voice. Donaldson, always here with Mike Felice, and welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's what we do here and that's the stories that we highlight. So do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment, ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new content, and now you can join. And of course, follow us on all social media so you can find out what we're up to when we're up to it. You'll notice we're sitting in here, it's a little bit different, because tonight we have something that we have never done on the Suffering Podcast. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a reaction video to my appearance on Surrounded. That was that's a year and a half ago. And my friend, Dr. Dorothy Novitsky, is in here to do an analysis of what we're watching on the screen. What I want to point out here is I have not seen the clips that were chosen here. Dr. Novitsky has chosen all of these clips for some reason, I guess.
I hope so.
Well, thank you for joining us, because this is sort of like, I'm going to give dopey answers because that's what I do. And I need your clinical mind. I need those letters in front of your name and after your name to kind of dial me down. So this is kind of like the doctor and the dope.
Sure.
All right, sounds good?
Let's do it.
Before we get into anything, let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody as police, and we certainly don't trust people. We certainly don't trust people as podcasters, but we do trust the guys over at Toyota Hackensack. So if you're looking for a car and you're in the New York, New Jersey area, go to ToyotaHackensack.com and let them find you a car. And then go over to thesufferingpodcast.com, get yourself some Dent Today's coffee. 100% of the proceeds go to Dent Development Project, helping repair dents caused by suffering in first responders, veterans, and their families. And it's a great cup of coffee. I had mine on the way in. So Dr. Novitsky, even though we're in a different studio, doing a different type of episode for the Suffering Podcast, which is tonight we're going to be doing the suffering of analysis, and I'm going to suffer through this one. We're going to take a social media question. This one comes from Pretty Eyes. I got to read it. It's a really big letter so I can see it. So, how do you see your self-worth and value? I know I struggle with this a lot. I struggle with my self-worth and value. I constantly feel like an imposter, and it's a question that came in from Pretty Eyes, and it made me think. So you're our guest tonight. You were so kind to come in here to tone down my dopiness. So we'll lead this off with you.
Yeah, I do think that's actually a really great question. I think there's days similar to you that's a tough one, right? That I think self-worth, value is a struggle, right? Especially if it feels like it's a failure after failure with patients, with work, with family, right? With friends. For me, I think it's when I see somebody benefiting from something I've done. If I'm able to help, make a connection. If somebody's in a really, really low space and I can get them to see a little bit of light, a little hope, even agree to get through the night, right? Connect in the morning. And I feel like, okay, there's a purpose for me.
I struggled with this for a long time. You know, as you know, my public profile started to get out there. somebody had asked me once, and it was a question I'd never been asked at that point. It's like, what do you want? Like, what's your goal? What are you doing next? And I thought and thought and thought about it, and it took me years to figure out why I'm doing all this stuff. My self-value, my self-worth had been so low. I'm just somebody with a microphone, saying whatever's on my mind. But there's got to be a purpose to it, right? So what I chose, or what I found is my self-worth and my values, I'm just a conversation starter. That's all I am. I don't have any letters before my name or after my name. I don't have any special classes. I don't have any special degrees. I have the information you can't learn from books, all right? But I don't have any formal training. So what's my value in going out and speaking to these classes or going to these conferences and stuff? My value is simply to start the conversation from somebody who is an outsider. I'm like an outhouse model. Just, like the old days, I'm full of shit, that's why. But I'm an outhouse model because that's how things get moving. Because when you're inside, when you have indoor plumbing, like some people have, what happens is you become scared because you're going to be stigmatized within the people who you work with and see every single day. And I can't have that. It's remarkable to see that coming, traveling across the country and being on 2 different coasts and speaking to somebody and something you say really resonates with them. And then they start the conversation with you afterwards. And you see them, right? They'll just sit off into the corner until everybody's done talking to you, and they'll approach you and they'll tell you something. You kind of know where they're going with it. And then you strike up this conversation. And then you direct them to resources, trained professionals. I make it very clear, I'm not a trained professional. I just live this life. So that's my value, and that's where I hold my worth. My worth is, can I start the conversation? Can I get things going? Can I make progress? And it's worked out so far.
Yeah. I think you touched something similar to what I did, right? I think you give people hope, right? That there is, but you do though. I know you tend to sort of poo-poo it, right? And say it's not that big of a deal because I don't have the letters. But I think when people feel heard, they feel seen, right? They feel a connection. Now they can hold on, right? Now they know that they'll be okay.
And I hope, I really do hope that, they'll see me and they'll see me telling my deepest, darkest secrets on stage or in a classroom, and they'll say, okay, well, if he can do it, then I can do it. Because I got no special powers. I got no magic that's in me. I hear
you're a pretty good dancer now.
Well, according to the Instagram Live videos that I put out, I can do the crip walk. I can do the jig. I can ice skate. I can ice skate like a mother.
A pro, yeah.
Oh my God! You see, I do this split. It's like the triple Lindy on ice.
It's impressive.
And you've never seen Back to School because you're just way too young for that.
Too young.
So Pretty Eyes, thank you for sending that question in. Keep sending in your questions, and we'll try to get them on the air. So tonight, what we're going to do, and again, I have not seen the clips that you've chosen, is the surrounded video, which I think came out like in the beginning of October of 2024. What it was is I traveled out to LA. And this show that I never heard of. I never heard of Jubilee Media. I remember asking my youngest son, I'm like, hey, have you ever heard of Jubilee Media? And he's like, oh, Dad, that's really big. But I had no idea. And I go out there and I'm in this brick building on the border of South Central LA in Compton. Yes, I was the only boy in the hood. And I go into this, and it's a setup in there, and I looked up, it was filmed at Electric Pony Studios, which I found out the week before that Mike Tyson just shot a commercial in there. So I'm like, oh, okay.
That's cool.
But it was cool. It was the first time I really ever stepped on like a set like that. The lighting, the cameras were set up. They have these big, tall ladders, a lot of different equipment. The director's coming over to me, and I had really no idea what was going on. I just sort of walked into the lion's den on this stuff. I see the people who are going to sit around me.
So you don't know how this was going to be, or did you watch any episodes leading up to it?
A little bit. Like they reached out to me. This is how this all came about. They reached out to me and they said, "Hey, we think you'd be good for this show." Okay. And I said, so I had a Zoom meeting with the director. The director's name was Suns Frankowitz. That's not a name you forget. And I'm sitting on this, and I had my initial meeting with him. We're like, oh, okay. Well, I'd like you to have another meeting with the producers. I was like, okay, well, all right. I thought you said I was good for it. I didn't know. I didn't realize I was auditioning. I didn't.
You just thought it was a phone call.
I just thought it was a call
Yeah.
to see if I wanted to do it, like in all honesty. And it was like 2 more, and I was like, oh, they're like, okay, we'll fly you out to LA and we'll do this stuff. And I had to come up with these lists of claims, like 12 of them or something like that, and I had no idea what I was doing.
That was going to be one of my questions. Did you come up with the claims, or were they given to you? Okay.
I had to come up with the claims, but here's how I am horrible at booking travel. So I do have a friend, Sherry Elsip, who is very good at booking travel. I remember calling her and said, look, I got this TV show out in LA. I got to book my own flight and they're going to reimburse me. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. So she says, so she walks me through it, and I booked a flight, and I see this one seat, and it was the cheapest seat or whatever. It's like, all right, I'll choose this one. I was in the last row of the airplane, the last row thank God it was a direct flight, the last row, and I fly into LAX, and I hadn't been in LA in 25 years, and yeah, that was something else. But yeah, it was culture shock going into LA, because I had never seen homeless like that, ever.
More so than
Oh my
New York
gosh.
City, or if you go any of the poor areas.
New York City is like the suburbs of homelessness compared to LA. I'm walking, and I stay right by LAX. I'm walking down the street, and I'm stepping over people because they're lined up. There's tent cities. I was like, holy cow. But I got to tell you, the weather in LA, this is why everybody's drawn there. The weather is absolutely gorgeous. Right. And, you know, in the video, I'll see clips every once in a while, and I'm like, man, I had a great tan. Because I fell asleep by the pool, that's why. You know, and
In October.
In October.
Yeah.
No, we filmed in end of August. So
Okay.
it took 2 months to get out. And I really had no idea what it was going to turn out to be. I had, you know, it was just one of those things where it seemed like a cool experience to do. And I had no idea what it was going to be like it was. And I'll never forget. So when it came out, it kind of blew up a little bit. And I'm at a football game. And those of you who don't know, Dr. Novitsky's son and my son, they're best friends, and we see each other quite a bit. We're co-authors on a new book. So I'm sitting at a football game, and a mother comes up to me. She goes, my son just got his mind blown. I'm like, why? What happened? You were all over TikTok. And then I looked on TikTok, and it was the worst possible clip. It was me telling the girl that her cousin probably got shot because he had a big dick, and I was like, oh my God. But tonight, so tell me a little bit of why you chose the clips that you chose.
Interactions with sexual assault victims are on the rise, yet training remains scarce.
Every day, someone finds the courage to say the words they've been holding in for years.
And every day, someone is standing on the other side of that moment. The question is,
will they know what to do next?
Trauma doesn't come with instructions. It doesn't look like the way we expect.
It doesn't respond to force. It responds to understanding.
Sherry Elsip, survivor turned global trauma expert.
Kevin Donaldson, retired law enforcement leader and advocate for real change. Together, we bridge a gap most people never see.
We train officers. We educate communities.
We change how first responders listen, question, and lead. Because the first response can shape a lifetime.
This isn't a theory.
This is lived experience meeting leadership. And when compassion replaces confusion, healing begins.
Sherry Elsip and Kevin Donaldson, changing the way we respond so survivors are heard.
The clips that I focus on, I think I looked at it different levels. One was the reaction of everybody that was in the room with you. And
Some were quite animated.
Some are very animated, and some I don't know them personally, but I very much appreciate, you know, the personality that I saw. Also, your reaction or lack of. I think I don't know what your mindset was going into it in terms of having, you know, being very stoic or being, you know, almost like flat. So they can't read anything, right? It almost had like a very cop mentality to it, you know, like I'm walking in and I'll be still and sort of judge the room, right? So I think seeing when that changed a little bit, depending on who got up to talk to you, right? There's a little bit of a shift sometimes, which makes you wonder, what was the thought process? Like, was it like, oh crap, what's coming at me? Or, oh, this is gonna be easy.
Because I want you to analyze that behavior. You know, this is something that you do on a daily basis, and I want you to analyze that behavior because it may be something that I missed. It may be something that I just didn't think of, so when I went into it, I really didn't know what I was walking into. And my mindset walking into it, I can still remember it very clearly, was there's a lot of misinformation out there about police officers. I want to debate this, and I want to change those opinions about police officers. That's honestly where I went in there. And I knew I wouldn't be able to do that by going hard at the paint. I couldn't tell them this is the way that it is. This is the reality of this situation, because what happens when you meet somebody with force, their ears shut down.
Oh, right. The defenses go up, right? And there's no conversation at that point. And I think some of the clips that I do have were the ones where you did a really nice job of agreeing initially and then gently bringing your point, right? So it's almost like a legal kind of argument, right? Like
a verbal castration?
Not quite a verbal castration, because that's more like a no, right? Bad. What you do is, yeah, I see your point. I want you to understand it this way, right? That's what you do. So you don't disagree. Initially, you're like, okay, I'll meet you halfway, and then I'll pull you in. And I think we see that on these clips, that a number of them, especially the men, that initially come off as being very tough and very anti-cop, will be like, oh yeah, no.
Well, I watched the first episode that came out was Charlie Kirk. So Charlie Kirk did the episode right before me. Ben Shapiro did the one right after me. So I watched Charlie Kirk, how he reacted to people, and while he was correct in a lot of the things that he was saying, the way he did it was very abrasive, and I didn't want to be abrasive. Okay, I was there to literally change minds. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, but they're judging me as a cop, and I knew they were. You know, I looked like a cop, and when I showed up there and I saw how certain people were dressed, I'm like, oh, that's why people think you're a criminal, because you're dressed like a criminal. I'm faulty on one side, they're faulty on the other side. But, you know, we got a lot of clips to go through. So let's get to our first clip. You know, let's roll that first one.
I think you guys should get judged even worse than anybody else, because you guys are predators. You guys are not serving and protecting. You guys are seeking and destroying. You guys are ripping apart the very fabrics of the community, taking away our rights.
All police?
That's me thinking you're a moron.
Most of us.
Most of you guys.
So over 350,000 police
Why can't
officers.
I talk?
I'm just telling you.
I just noticed
You
that
said most.
your
You said most.
There you go. Just like everybody
nostrils
else on the
flare a little
field,
bit on that one.
you guys all have the same complex.
Try not to
The
respond.
moment you guys are like called out on your shit, quick, what? Just like you did, you don't even let me talk.
Feel free.
You feel me?
Yes.
Whatever.
You
I
are
said.
correct, and I apologize for interrupting you.
And if you guys are lying to yourselves that you guys are trying to save the world or make a difference, what are you doing with your life? You could have became a nurse, a doctor. There's oceans.
They also
to
couldn't have
clean.
become criminals.
There's pets
Well,
to
sure,
save.
right.
But
We
you
all have
choose
choices.
to run around
right.
with a badge that entitles you to act higher than anybody else.
This guy kind of got under my skin a little bit, because no matter what I threw at him, he never took his sunglasses off, which I find is disrespectful. Okay, I would never speak to somebody in an indoor area with sunglasses on. All right, so his body language was so off. If he's trying to tell me something and he approached it the same way I did, he failed on every level, in my opinion.
Well, I think what's interesting with him, sunglasses, absolutely. I think it almost, that's his defense, right? You can't see his eyes. You don't know what he's looking at. You don't know if he's scared, if he's staring through you. No way to know. But I think you're the one that I think is really interesting, that one, because the way that you're sitting, how much you're shifting, right? I can almost read your thoughts of, okay, go ahead, tell me what you got, right? And then you're trying to step in a little bit, but his thing is, no, cops are disrespectful. You can't step on my toes, right? So then I see you going, okay, I got you, I'll back up, right? But then again, your facial expression changes. You go from being very stoic to like almost that smug kind of smile of like.
Because the guy was presenting as an asshole. That's what he was doing. He was presenting it. So if you were to move further in that interaction right there, I try to talk and he keeps interrupting me. And I actually say to him, I said, I let you talk. Time to let me talk. All right. I tried to give him. So again, I live by the mantra, I see you and I raise you one. It's an old poker mantra, right? If you're going to be a dick to me, I'm going to be a dick to you. If you're going to be nice to me or give me respect, I'm going to give you more respect than you give me. And that's, I can do both ways. I prefer to do it through respect. And he just wasn't given any respect. And his ears were shut off. And I knew that. So by me barking at him, and this is what was going through my head there, I can remember very clearly, by me barking at him, he's not listening. So why am I going to waste my breath?
He was giving you comments that made the others react, right? And that's even, we see the camera zooming in on that, my favorite lady that's in there, as some of the guys, right? They're agreeing, right? Because the comments are meant to elicit a response because it's very strong. And they're just almost like clips, right? Things that people will like, oh yeah, that's exactly what you do, and why be a cop if you could be a nurse, right?
Why be a cop when you can be a criminal? And you know what? They did crush him in the comments. Now I read every one of those comments that came through. They crushed him in the comments. They're like, it doesn't matter. And it just speaks to my theory that people's ears shut off when conflict happens like that. He may have had some good points. He may have had some valid points, but he was presenting in such an asinine manner that nobody was listening to him, and they destroyed him. I think the most common comment was the cars, because his shirt says cars are paying. Cars are paying guys as a dick. Like that's what they would say, or as an asshole, or whatever it may be. Okay. Pick the expletive. And I don't think what he was trying to do landed very well, but hey, he got on camera, so whatever. But I don't take. See, that's the thing. He took the things that I said personally. I don't take things personally. I'm like, okay, I'm going to defend my profession, the profession that I loved. You like what profession are you defending? You defending being a criminal? At one point, he says, we'll police ourselves. I'm like, yeah, it's called Lord of the Flies. It doesn't work real well. Yeah. So you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next one.
Until Derek Chauvin murdered that dude, George Floyd, people were not being held accountable. Cops were not being held accountable.
That's not true.
We've already witnessed multiple examples.
That's not true.
You go from division to division,
that's
precinct
absolutely
to
not
precinct.
true. That is a false statement.
We see it every single day.
That is a statement That is a statement straight out of the news media's mouth.
It's not a false statement. It's
absolutely
happening.
Is.
That's
You're
my
telling
point.
me the police officers before Derek Chauvin had no accountability?
Very little.
No.
Very
I
little.
like that shift.
Very
that
little
he goes from being
accountability.
none
Yes.
to.
That was the first cop that I can think of in my lifetime that actually went to prison for the crime he committed.
There's tons of
it. We haven't ever seen it.
They've made movies about it.
We haven't ever seen it.
To his point, and I know the guy, Mike Dowd, went to prison for 12 years for corruption. Watch the documentary to 7-5. Salvatore Aldrade, who's the man to a police officer, he's been indicted for a police shooting. That's on camera where the guy pulls a gun at him. What are you going to tell me there's no police accountability? Like that one there, and that little beta male right there, I wanted to smack him right in his face. I swear I did. Because he was just like whining. Oh, he starts it off so bad. They murdered that guy. Well, I just had a guy in here last week, Dave Velasquez, who rode with Derek Chauvin. Right. Okay, that maneuver that he did, it was done a little too long, I will say that, but that maneuver that he did was taught to the Minneapolis-St. Paul police. And these are things that people don't know.
Well, we wouldn't know it, right? I think to your point that some of what he was saying is like a hot button thing from media, right? It's when this happened, I mean, that was all over the news, right? I mean, there was just so much division between white and black communities. I mean, that's what happened as a result. I mean, that's really what it was, right? And I think that politics played a big role, and that's what was fed to us, right? Depending on what news channel you were watching. Sure. And I think what I appreciate about him, though, is that he started, trying to attack, trying to give you these statements, and again, watching you saying, "Not true, not true, not true."
Everything he said in the beginning was untrue.
And then when you asked him, or when you stated, is it all cops? He goes, well, no, right? So you see him crack a little bit, I think asking him a very simple question just really broke the whole facade of what he was trying to portray in that.
So you look at the breakdown statistically, and I did this with some, I don't know if I did it with him, but if you break it down statistically, if you take special police officers and class 2s and class 3s, there is something like 1.2 million police officers in the state in New Jersey. So if every cop has no accountability, if every single cop has no accountability, why are cops going to prison? Why are cops getting fired? Why are cops losing their jobs? And then they get into the whole thing with qualified immunity. Well, if you take like Derek Chauvin, there's a perfect example. He should have been covered under qualified immunity because that technique that he used was taught.
Right, out of the manual.
There are things that we have to do that are not kind. There are times when you have to use your weapon. There is warranted deadly use of force per the Attorney General's guidelines. So there's all these different things. Now, I will say this, in his defense, what I learned about the LAPD is they do not have a good reputation. And they apparently, you go back 40 years, they ran kind of wild. You know, you start with the LA riots, prior to the LA riots with, what's his name?
Rodney King?
Rodney King, yeah. And that was the first up close and personal thing with the LAPD. So they do not have a good reputation. And that reputation has just sort of stuck with them for so long.
Were all the people on this from the LA area? You
Yes.
know? They were, okay.
I believe they were. To the best of my knowledge, they were. I was flown in. But that's another problem, too. So LA and New Jersey are completely, you know, California and New Jersey are completely different, just like every other police department in New Jersey. So they're talking about things that I'm not familiar with because they do things differently out there.
But I think that speaks to the point of the generalization, right? That all cops are bad, right? All cops do these things. That it's...
If you get a bad therapist, all therapists are bad. We are always judged by our lowest common denominator.
Right.
And one of the things I said, I don't know whether I said it to him, I said, nobody hates a bad police officer worse than a good police officer. I live my life trying to do the right thing and do my duty and be what I'm supposed to be. When somebody says something like that and they have such a negative view, it hurts my heart. Like, it really bothers me because that's not how I lived my life or did my career. Mm-hmm. You know, so when he started just whining over and over again, I was like, okay, well, you're spitting out, he was the first one. And he's spitting out all this false information. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to discredit you right now because everything you're saying is false. I'm going to show you how it's false. I think he was one they interviewed at the end as well.
Okay.
They did the thing, and he, you know, listen, I tried to meet him where he was at, but they come in so hot with pure emotion.
Well, I think that's the point of the show, though, right? Isn't for them to stay on there as long as they can until the, you know, how many flags.
Know that.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that either until I watched your show.
Shame on me.
Mm-hmm.
Shame on me, because throughout this, what you see, throughout that one cop versus 20 criminals, what you will see is they start ramping it up. And I'm sitting there, and I'm myself. Listen, what you see on there is me. And I'm watching them ramp it up and ramp it up. I'm like, what the hell? And I'm thinking in the back of my head, what the hell is going on? Because it's getting more and more intense. And then I realized they're fighting for camera time because they know the show. I don't. Right. Shame on me for not doing my research.
But that's the thing. Again, I haven't watched, honestly, any other Jubilees, just this one. But in watching, and actually, I had to look it up. Like, what's happening with these flags? Like, what is this? You know, the
there's a lot in the comments too.
But ultimately, I think seeing that, and then watching it again and seeing, almost like seeing the light bulb go off in your head, like, oh, that's what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. At the ending with each person, it became more cordial and more friendly. I think as they went on, because clearly now you understood the game.
I always shook their hand when they got up. Yeah. I always shook their hand because I wanted them to know that, hey, listen, it's not personal. Right. I don't hate you because I don't know you. And I did that very purposely. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, I still talk to like 3 people that are in that group. Yeah,
I think one of them, I think didn't shake your hand, right?
Yeah, one of them. No, he shook my hand because he forgot where he was for a moment. Oh. He shook my hand and then rubbed it, like on camera, rubbed it off. I'm like, oh, okay. You know,
okay, that's what it was.
You're just a jerk. So let's
forgot where he was.
Let's go on to the next one.
He forgot he doesn't like you.
Y'all treat the black and brown people very disrespectful, very different. Most of us getting killed every day.
Most of you?
Yeah, y'all just killed that lady for no reason.
What lady?
What was her name? Sonia. Yeah.
You're making some very dangerous generalities.
No, I ain't.
Yes, you are.
Y'all killed my cousin.
You said
for having
most.
sex in the park.
So
He had sex with a girl in the park.
You said
and
most.
they assumed he had a gun by having sex in the park. How you assume somebody having a gun by having sex in the park?
It's not my proudest moment. I don't know, maybe he was well endowed. Oh.
So what was happening there, Kevin?
So you said most. 17% of the population,
Do you
as I
think
said
understood
before,
the comment or what you were trying to say?
black. Okay? So that means out of
explain in a
320 million,
moment.
approximately 320 million people in the world, if you do the math,
in the United
you're
States.
looking at about
I got to
what?
think off the
I
top
don't
of my
know.
head.
We'll say a nice round number. 50 to 60 million black people in the country. Okay? That's what the statistics say. Statistics aren't going to lie on that one. So most of them, that would mean over 30%. It's 25 to 30 million people are getting shot by black people or shot by cops. So your claim doesn't hold water.
Bitch, I flagged it.
So you had to pick this one. You had to pick this one. This clip went viral on
Did it?
TikTok.
I have to get TikTok.
Oh my God, it went viral. I think one of them out there, the last time I checked, was at 30 million views. And there's some downsides when those
Sure.
clips go viral. I work out in the open on my day job, and people are stopping. People are stopping in the middle of the road, which is a very busy road that I'm on.
Like people that don't know you,
People that don't know me, they're like,
Mr. Endowed.
I saw you here. That one, listen, I said something because she was pissing me off. I'm very honest. She was pissing me off, and again, she got under my skin, which I was.
Was it what she was saying, or was it her presentation?
Her presentation was just, her body language was so far off.
Well, she wasn't still, right? She was there moving. I think I appreciate her so much because she was so animated, even when she was on camera. You could just see her even blurred in the background, moving and responding. I think she's, again, I don't know if it was an act or if that's how she is, but if that's who she is, I think she just really hears and responds automatically, right? There's not much of a pause there.
I was very embarrassed by that comment I made. In full transparency, I shouldn't have done it. It was an inappropriate comment for me to make, but she was firing at me so hard. I had to do something to stop her in her tracks. Again, I see you when I raise you one. I had to do something to stop her in her tracks. That's one thing. The second thing that I was trying to do, it was getting tense. It was getting very, very tense, and my method, you know me pretty well, my method of breaking tension is to come up with the most inappropriate joke I could possibly imagine. And that was what came to my mind. So I said it. Again, Dr. Dope.
But interesting choice of words, right? Because you could have said it in a very crude sort of way in terms of language. But you didn't, right? Which makes me wonder whether the person that you're speaking to or even the people around you, did it land? Did they understand what you were saying?
No, it didn't land at all. It didn't land on social media. It didn't land in the room. So much so that I was embarrassed by how much she was able to get under my skin, because I shouldn't be that way. After the shoot, afterwards, I spoke to her. I spoke to her privately. I said, look, that was a very inappropriate comment. I apologize from the bottom of my heart. How do I make it right? Because I can, one of the things with me is I can identify when I do something wrong. I will own it all day long. All right, yeah, I screwed up. But then I had to go back into cop mode. I had to go back into proving her wrong, because she kept saying most. And the easiest thing to overcome is when people generalize in that fashion, most. And I tried to break it down statistically, and I'm throwing statistics off the top of my head that probably aren't correct, but they're close. I think at one point it's like 17 to 20% of all of the population in the United States is black. And if she's saying most out of 320 million people, which again, that was the last number that came to my mind, I'm trying to do, like, I'm not Copernicus. I can't do these math problems in my head. And I'm trying to do these math, so 50 to 60 million, that's what I came up with. And I said, so that means if most, that means over 30 million. And we all know that isn't true. We all know that isn't true. There's a video out there online about how many unarmed black men or women get shot by police. And it's like, it's so small. It's almost a statistical anomaly that it doesn't really even exist. And that's the truth of the situation. But when that does happen, it is national news.
Well, again, it goes back to media portrayal, right? And what's going to get most clicks, what will get people talking, what will get people fired up.
They're never going to see the cops doing their job or saving somebody or crossing the street
of
or
course not.
doing CPR on somebody. They're never going to show that because it's not newsworthy. What's newsworthy is Sonia Massey, right? So that's what they were talking about in there. Sonia Massey, she picked up the pot of boiling water.
Right.
There's a lot, and I look at that with a very critical eye as a retired cop. They teach you very early on the most dangerous place in a household is the kitchen. There's knives, there's all sorts of utensils, there's all sorts of weapons. The cop allowed her to go into the kitchen. She's an emotionally disturbed person. The call came in, she's been emotionally disturbed, and they still allowed that. So if you're being fed that information all day long, that's what you're going to think happens in every police interaction. When again, it's not the truth. You're seeing the worst.
And I say again, I think social media here, right? That it's again, I'm not a really techie person, but algorithms, right? That if I click on one video, right, I'll get things that are very similar, right? Same theme, same, whether it's left or right, it'll be the same kind of stuff, right?
You're fed what you consume.
Right, and then everything I think, right, it's just confirmation bias. It becomes true, right? Because there's nothing else for me to see, right? Anything that may be different now, I'm like, I'll see it as false, right? That it can't be true because I already have been taught to believe this is accurate. And I think with police, I think that's what often happens. You're right. We don't see many stories of valor, right? We don't see many stories of police doing their daily duties.
The battles we fight are hard and taxing on the soul. Fighting a battle that seems impossible to win. The stressful calls that give us wounds that cannot be seen.
These moments leave scars. They leave dents. Sometimes we just need to sit and talk over coffee.
Finding a moment of peace in the comfort of decompression with those whom you share difficulties. Sharing moments with those who are the only ones who understand. Our peace comes in the quiet moments we can share with our brothers and sisters.
It's just a moment to sit, listen, and let it out. We may be dented, but we are not broken. The Suffering Podcast. Dented Ace Coffee was created to bring the peace to the protectors. Dented Ace Coffee is a tribute to my brother Mike Falaise and all the others who couldn't find their peace. 100% of the proceeds will go directly to Dented Development Project so that we can begin to repair the dents caused by suffering in veterans, first responders, and their families. The Suffering Podcast's Dented Ace Coffee. Get yours today by visiting thesufferingpodcast.com. But that's the one that goes viral, right? So and that, like, I'm very proud of what happened in that room. But at the same time, that right there, I'm embarrassed by. I'm embarrassed by that one right there. And I wish if I had a do-over, which I don't, I know I don't, that's the one I would take back.
What would you say instead?
He had a big dick. No.
Right.
No, I would have left that out. I would have said, tell me about the circumstances. Because I guarantee it's not what she's saying. I guarantee it's not. It's what she's been told maybe. I would like to look over the case. I want to see exactly why, because I don't think that her argument of all he was doing was having sex in the back of a car. No cop in the world would just go up and randomly shoot somebody having sex in the back of the car. They go to jail. They lose their job.
Right. No, they will probably roll up, honk, right, and maybe knock on the window.
No. Police will take their flashlight. They'll take their and all the cops. I'm going to speak to all my cop friends out there. They'll let them get into it because we're half perverted. Some of us. They'll let them get into it, and then they'll go up to the window.
Wait, some of us are half perverted?
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll wait till them get in, and they'll take their mag light, and when a mag light hits glass, it's a very distinctive sound. Okay. It's like a click, and they'll click on it and watch them scramble for their clothes because it's kind of humor. Yeah, it's kind of humor. So let's go. Let me try to forget that one. So you've got me all flustered. Watch I don't make an inappropriate joke. So let's go on to our next clip.
I came home, tried to kill myself, and told my mom I wish I didn't survive that because I didn't ask for this. I have to go through all of this. After I tried to kill myself, was I given help? No. I had to go weekly back to get pictures of my injuries, to tell them more details. And every single time, like, it was like an out-of-body experience. And
That's changing. I'm telling you, no, that's changing. Okay, so what police departments are starting to do now is they're bringing in training, because that police officer, I do know police officers who have asked questions like, what were you wearing? Okay, and that, while
So I
that
like
is
that.
a
I like that
non-issue question
that
for that
statement to
police
connect with her.
officer, he just wants to know what you're wearing, you're going to maybe view that as, is he trying to say I was asking for it? Right?
Yeah.
So the new form of training when it comes to sexual assault, okay, just sexual assault, is being done from a victim's perspective or a survivor's perspective. I don't like the word victim. So Sherry and I, when we go out and do our classes, we play that clip. So I've watched that clip so many times I can't even tell you, because that clip speaks volumes. The experience that she told me about was the wrong way to treat a sexual assault victim. All right, we have to be critical of ourselves when that is warranted. It is the wrong way to treat sexual assault victims, because police officers, we want the facts. We want to get a conviction. We want to make an arrest. We want to serve justice. Right. Sometimes the path in order to get that justice is done the wrong way. In her particular case, yes, it was done the wrong way. I will be very critical of it. She had to retell her story a dozen times. She wasn't given a chance to get a little bit of her dignity back. She had just been assaulted, and she's asked all these questions that she can't remember. Because anybody who's gone through trauma is going to understand that your brain does not remember events literally. It's fragmented. They're going to remember smells. They're going to remember feelings. They're going to remember touches.
Memory.
Everything but their eyes.
Right.
Because they might not even be looking at them. They might be looking away. They might, it's the survival techniques.
Right. They might tell you what the floor looked like, but not what the person looked like.
It's the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Mm-hmm. So they're going to do one of those survival techniques. So that it's. I had to make it clear to her that, and own the bad behavior from the cops. Not bad behavior, but just
that there's a better way.
The non-empathetical, non-empathetic. I'm going to make up a word. Empathic, non-empathic method. Again, big brain. So I had to make her understand that. I'm not trying to be adversarial with her. It's the mistakes were made, but they weren't made with malicious intent. Okay, I had to stress that. Though they were not made with malicious intent.
And I don't think that was her experience. I think she was just saying how hard that was for her. But it wasn't so much that these cops were heartless, right? It was just like, it was an awful experience all around. But I'm curious, what was it like for you? Did you know what she might come in with?
No clue.
No idea, okay.
There was another girl that came in with her, and I was trying to relate to her on some level. I said, I was trying to relate to whatever she did for a living. I said, so what do you do for a living? She goes, oh, I do OnlyFans. I'm like, oh. And you're just sort of like, you're just like shocked. It's like somebody would openly admit that. Oh, so you do porn? Okay.
You're like, oh, we talk about it all the time.
Okay, so
yeah.
Whatever it may be, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, like Mike always has his OnlyFans. Again, it kind of it added. She did OnlyFans as well. It kind of added another layer to, and I reached out to that girl to make sure she was okay with me showing those clips for Sherry and I when we do our class, and she's perfectly okay with it. But it added another layer to it, because just because she does OnlyFans doesn't make her a candidate to be sexually assaulted.
Of course,
right. And I had to make it very clear to her, and that interaction I thought it was a very positive interaction.
I think so too. And again, I asked if you knew what she was going to say to you, because your presentation is different with her compared to the others that we've seen so far, right? That at first you're just like watching, right? There's no response, and then like you wait for a pause, and then you say, okay, it's changing, or it's different, right? That it's not what it used to be.
I was trying to break her, because I saw her starting to digress into that incident again.
Right,
I saw her starting to go, and I wanted to break that, because I didn't want her to go to that place. She didn't deserve it. She didn't deserve what happened to her, and I wanted to break in and say, hey, listen, mistakes were made, but we're changing it, right? So that was one. I'm glad you chose that one because it's an important clip to me.
I think it's a positive one, and ultimately, the entire interaction with her is very positive. At the end, I think she very much appreciates what you share, and it's almost like amongst all the chaos in that hour plus, right? There's a little light in there.
Yeah, Andrew's waving a red flag at me right now. So let's go on to our next one. This is why I'm going to say it again. I'm going to probably say it a dozen more times. Nobody hates a bad cop worse than a good cop, because what that guy did looks bad on everybody. Okay, now everybody has to bear the brunt of his poor decision. That sergeant who was there, or the other officer who was there on scene, he has to live with the fact that he did not act. Trust me when I tell you, the punishment for that crime will go far beyond what the media is going to say. It'll go far beyond what you think and what everybody in this room thinks. He's got that woman's soul on his heart for the rest of his life.
I agree.
I love that clip because you come alive in that, Kevin, that you're not being attacked the way you were in the first couple. Like, this is like your moment to shine. Like, let me tell you, why that's wrong. And you're allowed to, he lets you kind of speak your piece, and I think that's actually really great.
He brought up a problem that I have no problem with people bringing up issues that they have with the police. I have no problem at all. And let's talk through them, because you might have some information that's going to make me a better cop, right? He approached it that way. He's like, I got this problem.
Mm-hmm.
I got this problem, and I believe we were going back to Sonia Massey incident was talked about quite a bit there. No, that was the Derek Chauvin where the officers who were standing around. Now, I've been in those situations. I've been in those situations where I'm surrounded by bad people, and I'm vastly outnumbered. I'm behind enemy lines, and I'm not so much thinking about the suspect that I have down on the ground, and I'm trying to restrain him. Right. Now I'm looking at everybody else, and the officers standing around Derek Chauvin when that happened. One of them, Officer Tao, they just did a bunch of articles about him, and the guy I had in last week also rode with him. That guy did 5 years in prison for not acting. He did a long time in prison.
Sure.
I mean, think about it. You show up to work one day, and you see something going down, and you're just stunned. You're like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? Or you're looking for protection, and you go to jail. Yeah. That's horrible. But there is a price to inaction. There is a price to do that.
It goes back to Kitty Genovese, right? When somebody's being raped and killed and people don't respond.
Yeah, and it happens a lot. It's like, hey, I'm going to stay in my lane. I don't want to see anything. I don't want to do, and that's just not the right thing to do. People try to walk the middle of the road. Okay, right. Middle of the road is the most dangerous place to walk. They don't want to get involved in this side or this side. They just want to live their lives, and I get that to some extent. That's not what cops do.
But I think people also sometimes just freeze, going back to a trauma response, right? Like I cannot believe this is happening in front of me, and there's no action because they're just in a free state. They don't.
I talk about a guy I work with the night of my shooting ran away. I actually referred to him in class as male nipples because he's as worthless as male nipples, and I will never give him the dignity of calling him by rank because it was inaction, right? That's the problem.
Well, I think in your case, he left, right? He didn't stay there and do nothing. He chose to run away. Yeah. So I actually think that's even worse.
Yeah,
right?
it's pretty bad.
Because he didn't run towards you, he ran away.
To get back to the point of that clip,
right?
That person has to live with that for the rest of their life. So no matter how much I dislike that person, or I'm angry with that person, or I'm hurt by that person's actions who did that, they have to live with that. So no matter what I could do to them, is not going to be half as bad as that little thing in the back of their head where they know what they did.
Well, we hope they do. Right? I think some people.
Oh, I know they do. And the department knew what he did.
Okay, so specifically there, yeah. But I think sometimes people will have a way of just telling themselves that, what else could I have done? That it's not my fault, right? That they can talk themselves out of feeling bad about it.
Yeah, I just.
Not everybody has a conscience, right? Or some people.
Or their conscience. We've known this from people that we mutually know that some people just. Yeah, they are born without a conscience.
There's a little more psychopathy, a little more narcissism, and that's all that's there.
Yeah, unfortunately. unfortunately. So let's take a look at the next one. Police are held to a higher standard than everybody else.
Are they?
Absolutely. So, gentlemen, prior to you said the young man took a swing at a police officer. Well, what happened if this police officer just went up to somebody and took a swing at them? They're going to lose their job. Now, the person who took a swing at them, yeah, he might spend a night in jail if he gets caught. But other than that, there's really no real consequences. So let's do this on a different level. You being a therapist, you're out drinking one night and you get pulled over and you get a DUI. You going to lose your job?
I might.
Well, you got licenses, so it might be a bad example. Let's say an office worker,
Sure.
a receptionist.
Right.
They're going to lose their job? No, they're not going to lose their
Right.
job. Police officer, if they don't have a driver's license, especially in a smaller department, they could lose their job. You know, so that's why I say we're held to a higher standard. We can't just randomly go out there and yell at somebody or assault somebody. We're going to lose our jobs. Demeanor complaints are, what they are. People don't see cops that way because they think that we're this rogue group of vigilantes, when we are governed by laws that are so strict and the margin for error is so small. Right. If people only knew how small that margin of error was, they would never become a cop, number one. And that's something that the public doesn't realize.
No, I don't think we have a way of realizing it until either we know somebody who's a police officer or was a police officer or we work with them, right? I think in my line of work now, actually working with more police, right, I hear about these instances so often now, and it's amazing to me, right, just how much the public doesn't know, right? Because it's what we're fed, right? What we see on TV, what we see on social media, again.
Well, we try to make sure that the public can sleep at night, because if they saw the things that we saw, they probably wouldn't be able to sleep at night. So again, this comes from misinformation. So when somebody's coming at me with these, they were attacking at some point, I have to decipher whether, okay, are you going on half information, misinformation, or are you telling the truth? When in the case of the woman who was sexually assaulted, she's coming at me with the truth. In the case that the one guy says we're predators, or the girl says that we kill most black people, well, that's false information. And this guy who says held to a higher standard, well, he's got misinformation. So those are the three categories I try to do.
I think with him, he was trying to get a rise out of you, right? With his short, like, are they?
And his little kid toucher mustache.
And that too.
I don't know. I can't deal with the mustache thing. I just look at people. I'm like, dude, you look like a pedophile. Just shave the mustache. This isn't 1980. You're not Magnum PI. Shave the mustache.
Yeah, was it having worked in a prison with all male adult sex offenders? I can say that the mustache and like big, thick, like those round glasses.
So this is a public service announcement. If you don't want to be marked as a pedophile, shave your mustache, because the more you know, right? And then the little star comes across it. So let's get on to the next one.
Honestly, I may be opposed to a lot of people's beliefs here. I agree with you.
I really like
most cops that I've seen, if we're talking about the word most,
look at her.
Generality, I've seen more cops be good than none. I mean, than bad. But at the same time, in Los Angeles, this thing called the gang unit division, and majority of them are bad. Majority I've seen encountered horrible cops. They put a bad name on just cops, period. And I've seen cops allow it, but honestly, I feel like I agree with your statement for the most part.
There's a couple big things in what you said there. Number one, nobody hates a bad cop worse than a good cop. Say it again. And that's the truth. Because that brings me to the second point, where we are all, in this room, we are all judged by our lowest common denominator. If somebody with black skin did me wrong, am I going to have a favorable view against black people? Probably not. Probably not. If you had a cop treat you a certain way, are you going to have a favorable view of cops? Probably not. But most cops, I'm telling you, most cops are out there trying to do a job the best they can. I did something with this guy that I shouldn't have done. All right, so he comes walking. I see him off to, he's off to my left, and I can see him. He's got the do-rag on. He's dressed like, he's kind of dressed what a movie star, a movie version of a gang member is. And I'm like, and I see him get up, and I'm like, because at this point, when he came up, I was getting beat up, right? And I'm like,
And you can actually see, I don't know if it was in this clip, but in the actual episode, your body language shifts when he gets up. Yeah. So I was going to ask, what was the thought when you saw him?
I completely judged him by his appearance. Shame on me. I completely judged him by his appearance. And then he sat down, and when he opened his mouth, I'm like, oh, you know, I was so blown away. And I got a chance to speak to that guy after the shoot. And he was a genuinely nice man and just and spoke truth. And he is one of those guys that came up there with a rational mind, like a completely rational mind. He's one of my favorite people that were on the dais there. So I completely judged him by how he looked. Shame on me.
And that's why actually I picked this clip, because he was so colorful getting up compared to some of the people we've seen before.
Well, everybody was like, when he got up, everybody's like,
something.
Here we go.
They thought you were going to get like a whooping, and he was like, I respect you, I like you, I agree with you. And again, and I can see your body language also shift, that initially you're bracing for
I'm
impact.
bracing for impact, yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden there's like that exhale and you're like, God, tell me more. Tell me more. Yeah.
Well, so I want to point out the girl in the back, okay? She was so mad at him. She didn't talk to him afterwards. She was so mad because he, being the same skin color as her, didn't agree with her. And that's the mob mentalities type of stuff. It's like, oh, you look like me, so you got to agree with the way I think. I don't think like that. I really don't think like that. I don't seek people out who think like me. I like people who think differently than me. All right, and so that was one of the more intriguing things about doing something like this. All these people don't look like me. They come from different backgrounds. Let's see what's what. Let's see what works out. You know, let's throw all these things up against the wall.
Yeah, but I liked him also because he was very much an individual. That he wasn't looking for anybody's agreement. Like he was there to talk to you, to tell you what he thought, and he was open to discussion. And again, I think seeing your response to him.
One of his points past that, and I remember it, was, you know, I pay taxes. All right, so I want to make sure that the taxes that I'm paying are being used properly. So it was a fancy way. It was a nice way to say I pay your salary, which we hear as police all the time. I pay your salary. Well, he didn't say it quite like that. He's saying, well, I fund your salary. You know, I'm just looking for a little better job. But he brought up the gang unit stuff, and the problem with being in any of those specialized units, you see so much. And you become very jaded, and that's why people shouldn't stay in those units for too long, because you get so jaded, and they might get a little heavy-handed because they're saying bad call after bad call after bad call. They're never, if you're in a gang unit, you're certainly not going to a nice old lady to bring you some cookies.
Sure. No, I've spent a little time working in the prison system in the gang unit, so I'm quite well versed in what happens there.
They do get heavy-handed because they just, that's what they're used to. You know, they're going to meet you where you're at.
Well, I think what happens also is when you're used to always being handled that way, if somebody's a little softer, it's not met with respect, right? Now you're vulnerable, and now you're weak. So it takes, I think, a lot of work, a lot of time for a person to trust you and know that you're competent and able, even if you're not abusive.
I am completely incompetent on most things in my life. So I think we got time for one more clip, and I want to roll that one now. Why wouldn't somebody like yourself, who has those views, take on that responsibility to change that system?
I did. You know, when I was a kid, I would always say I want to be a cop or a movie star. Cops made me who I am by the way I look. I felt like I was a criminal because of the way they acted towards me. You know, until one day I realized, you know, I'm not the bad guy.
The tear usually gives it away. Something you don't know about me. I grew up in a neighborhood full of criminals. When I was younger, I stole everything I could get my hands on. And then one day, the light clicked on because of a police officer. He came up to me and he said, "What are you doing? What are you doing with your life?" And I watched that police officer take a young kid with that one statement, that one simple statement, and change me around to want to go the other direction. And he has Tourette's or something.
It goes back to what I was saying. We need more cops like that will steer us the right way.
And that's why I challenge you, and I challenge everybody in this room. I challenge you to teach your children. It might be too late for all of us.
I'm doing that just by being here.
Challenge your children.
And I'm just trying to lead by example, and that's it. You know, that's all I can do. You know, I think my side can agree that we were wrong at some point.
And my side can agree that we were wrong at some point.
Well, that's a start.
That's a start. And guess what? We just take the first step. And then before you know
a
it,
big hug moment right
you and I will be rounding mile
Hug it out,
16 in the
Kevin, hug it
marathon
out.
together, but you got to take off the rings.
No, they don't come off, but yeah, all right, sounds good. Shit, man.
All right, brother. At the end, they allow you to call up one person from the circle. Right? And I could have called up the guy with the do-rag. I could have called up the girl behind me who was being very animated. But I tried to look at the guy who, number one, was somewhat reasonable and also looked the scariest. Right? That's what I wanted. I wanted somebody in the gigantic teardrop. His name's Mario, by the way. The gigantic teardrop on his face.
It's a raindrop.
It's
bigger than what I'm used to seeing.
Yeah, it's very pronounced. It's like, well, you know, why do they treat me like a criminal? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a big tattoo on your face.
People will judge, right, based on what we see.
That's an easy one. You know, teardrops mean murder. That's what, for those people who don't know that, a teardrop on your face usually means you killed somebody.
Right, or you lost somebody, depending if it's colored or not.
I was always told that that would like in a spider web on your elbow means you've been locked up. So I called him up, and so it's interesting that you chose that one, because he's one guy that I actually feel like I accomplished my goal, that goal I initially set out to. That's the one I think I really accomplished it with, because I like the fact that he's able to finally own some of his bad behavior. I'll own my bad behavior, but I want them to own their bad behavior as well, because it takes two to tango.
Halfway, right?
Yeah. So I'm glad you picked that one out.
Yeah, and I liked that clip again because of what was coming at you, right? So I was again curious to know what was your, I guess, assumption, right, of him coming towards you. Again, you see the face tattoos, you have the neck tattoos, all around his head, like everything is tattooed. You know, the chains, the rings, right? He kind of meets the stereotype, right, of what we see on TV.
Dressed like a cholo. He was. There's a couple of them in there that were dressed like a cholo.
So what was your thought before you sat down?
I didn't think he was going to be real friendly to me, and he wasn't. He wasn't. You know, they interview him at the very, very end, and he, in order for him, so you got to understand that. And I understand this. In order to maintain some sort of street credibility for them within their own community,
sure,
they can't go too far with agreement. Right? So at the end, he says something like, he seems like a good guy, but I don't think I could ever be friends with him because he's a cop. Like, he had to go back there. Like, why? Well, you know, some of my best friends in the world are covered in tattoos. Some of my best friends in the world were big-time criminals. I mean, big-time criminals. Right. I don't think anybody is ever too far gone to not be able to see the light of an opposing point of view. You know, I'm glad that ended the way that it did. And that truly was the last shot of the day after about 8 hours.
That's a long day.
Oh my gosh, it was a long day.
Yeah, but I agree. I like the ending that way, and almost it feels like you guys will get up and like hug, right? Like
at least he shook my hand. Yeah. You know, and you start to see some of the people in the group, their faces change. You know, and that's important to me, because I don't care if you agree with everything I say. Just, am I getting you thinking? Am I getting the wheels turning? And that's all I wanted to do here. Yeah. I don't know whether I think I accomplished that. And like I said, I'll talk to him every once in a while. I know.
Oh, you still have contact with him?
Yeah, I still have contact with him. Recently, I did this speaking thing for an organization down in Florida called Hey Blue, where they teach kids to call out a cop, say, "Hey Blue," and they give them little prizes every time they engage with a cop. And they found me through Surrounded, and they asked me to get him in touch with this. And he spoke from a different point of view. Okay, interesting. So that as much as he might not want to admit it, like I don't hold. I want them to succeed, you know. And there was a little guy in the back. His name's Adrian. He's another guy. I keep in contact with him. He's just a really, really good dude. But you got to understand too. Here's the whole thing, and this kind of brings it home. This is a show. All right, I was presenting reality. Some people in there were not presenting reality. Some people, most of them were, but some people were not presenting reality.
Meaning they were playing roles, or
they were playing. They were criminals, but they knew what it was. Where they had to. The more salacious a comment, the more camera time they're going to get, because that's how
the show works.
Yeah, they'll make money doing that stuff.
And them being labeled criminals, that means that they had to be arrested at some point.
Yes, that was one of the criterias that had to come in. Now the funny thing is there was actually 18 people in the circle. Supposed to be 20. Actually, they had 24 to start, and they were surprised that 6 criminals didn't show up to do the shoot. Wow. You know, I mean,
listen, 18 is pretty solid.
But afterwards, I got a chance to speak with everybody, and it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I did it. Jubilee has reached out to me several times to go back and do more.
Similar.
So initially, the Jubilee had reached out to do a panel of some names that I do not belong sitting next to. The high-level names. One of them, unfortunately, died last September, but. And I would go back and do it again. I would go back with a little bit different mindset, but I think, watching some of the surrounded videos that have come up subsequently, it's very disingenuous to me right now, because I see, like, they have a fact checker there, and they'll put the little fact check up on the.
Oh, that's what happens now?
Yeah, because they listened to the comments, and the comments said, hey, we should have a fact checker, and they did it, and I just think it pulls away from, that was very raw. Like I didn't have anything written. There was no numbers in front of me.
Right, you didn't come with a whole packet of information.
No, I had to pull stuff from the back of my head, and some of it wasn't correct, some of it was wrong.
But I think you did a nice job of saying that. Like, this is off the top of my head, right? You're not quoting like from a specific article or specific research, yeah.
No, but I did something called the Enemies Project. Now, that was a little bit more prepared statistically for that one, because I knew where it was going. It was just me and one other person. So, but this one, I was totally green. I was totally green in all of that.
Yeah. But you can't tell, though, right? And nobody there was challenging you on your stats.
So maybe you'll see me again on a surrounded video. Right. I think they should do like one therapist surrounded by 20 crazy people. How's that?
That's like a day in life, right? So,
so listen, we're coming to the end of this thing here, and I think we should both answer this question, because you're viewing this as a watcher, a viewer. All right, I was viewing this from somebody that was
not a voyeur.
Not a voyeur. I'm doing this from somebody who was on the inside, and there's fallout. Like, there is suffering to watching something like this and doing something like this. For you, watching this, like, what are some of the pains and struggles, especially knowing the person that's in the center? Like, what are some of the suffering that you had to deal with that?
I think being aware of personal biases, right? And I think you did a nice job of explaining what you kind of expected of a person, right? Just based on how they looked, again, whether it's face tattoos or style of dress or behavior, kind of mannerisms. So I think that kind of awareness of where are my biases, can I keep them in check? Will they impact how I engage with a person, right? Because again, I made the comment about, in my line of work, mustache and thick glasses equals something. While true, based on my experience.
If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck.
But I think, to be fair, right, I think there's a person there as well. And I think you did a really nice job of connecting with a lot of these people, despite, the biases in your own experiences.
So the suffering that I went through doing that video is the viral clips, and people see you, and that's all they're watching, right? They're not watching a whole video.
Right, you see a cop in blue, right, being a white cop in blue, yeah.
So they watch the viral clips, and they think that's who I am. And they think, or they think, oh, you were on this Jubilee, that must be great. Well, not in particularly when you're judged by an hour of your life, or an hour that was put together over 9 hours of shooting. I
can't believe you were there that long.
It was incredible. And it was so damn hot in there. That's why, like, you see me, I'm shining because I'm sweating. But that
I thought you were just glowing.
Yeah, no, I was sweating, and then there was a fly in there and stuff. But I have to deal with that. But I have to own it too. I did that. Nobody forced me to go do that. I did it. So whatever the fallout is, I have to take it. I have to say, okay, this is what it is.
What were you hoping to get out of it?
I was just hoping to present police in the positive light that I know them. You know, that's what I want. That's all I want. And I do that to this day. Police are the vast majority, 99.999% of the police officers are good, hardworking people trying to do a very difficult job under enormous pressure, under media scrutiny, and they're judged by that lowest common denominator. I just don't think it's fair. All right. So what do I try to do? I try to present police in the light that I see them in, because I know too many people that don't see them in that light.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
So we're at the end, and I'm going to end this a little bit differently, but thank you for joining us for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of Analysis with Dr. Dorothy Novitsky. But instead of me going through all the stuff that I learned, I'm going to go through one thing that I learned, and I want you to go through one thing that you learned. So why don't you start this off?
I think what I learned, other than you can sit through discomfort for 9 hours, is that despite the initial impressions, that it's possible to sit with that discomfort and come to some kind of an agreement with a person, find a common ground, find that gray area, if you will.
I learned that no matter what somebody says to you, showing anger at a purposeful, volatile statement, showing anger is one of the biggest weaknesses you could possibly do, because they found the chink in your armor and they know how to get to you. And if they get to you, they win. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast. Don't forget to go to popl.com, put in the code TSP20 for a 20% discount on your digital business card. Follow us on all social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Clapper, OnlyFans. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. Follow Dr. Novitsky at drnovitskysych.com. And don't forget to follow the Suffering Podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.